After taking 2 out of 3 from the A's, the 10-5 Mets now go to Minnesota to face the 5-11 Twins in a 3-game series. Today I'm going to get into the series preview. We're going to talk about key matchups and what the Mets have to do to take this series. Hope you stick around to Mostly Mets. Welcome to Mostly Mets. I'm Jimmy Mack, and today, like I said, I'm going to do a series preview of the Mets and the Twins. Like I said, the Mets come in at 10-5 and in first place in the NL East with a 1-game lead over Philadelphia, and the Twins come in at 5-11, and they are in fourth in the AL Central. Now, obviously, this is early in the season and not something that is indicative of future results, but right now the Mets are playing pretty well, while the Twins are definitely struggling both offensively and pitching-wise. So this is a good opportunity for the Mets to play another bad team. You know, the Mets haven't really played a top team yet this year, and even the Astros, who are supposed to be maybe a fringe playoff team, they haven't played their best. So the Mets haven't played any good teams. So being at 10-5 right now, while it's great, they haven't really played any competition, and the Twins are just another team that they should be able to fatten up on. What I want to do first, before we go into the full video, I want to go over how the league is looking right now. I want to go over the standings for the league. Is there any surprises? Is it kind of working out the way we think? So if you look at the AL right now, in the West you have the Angels leading at 9-6. In the Central, you have the Tigers leading at 9-6, and in the East, you have the Blue Jays leading at 9-7. There's no real surprises there. The Angels definitely, I would say, are actually a surprise because I didn't think the Angels would be very good at all this year. I think I predicted them to lose 100 games, and they've played well so far to start the season. Mike Trout has been on fire. I think he has 6 home runs already. I think he's leading the AL in home runs. So the Angels have been good. I don't trust them. I don't think that they're going to continue to play this well. But as of right now, they are a surprise team, and maybe they have a shot. Maybe a healthy Mike Trout is going to change that team. Hopefully, he stays healthy. We all want to see Mike Trout be healthy and out there and performing well. So that's really the only surprise in the American League right now. Maybe the Jays being in first place in the East, but it's still early. They're not separated by a lot. You have the Yankees at 8-7 and the Red Sox at 8-9. They're right there. It's a couple games between all three of those teams. Then you move over to the NL. The West looks amazing right now because you have the Padres with the best record in baseball at 13-3. The Giants are 11-4, and the Dodgers are 11-5. They're the 3 best teams in baseball right now. They have the best 3 records come out of that division. And the only surprise there is really the Giants. I had them kind of as a 500 team, but they performed really well, and they've done a great job. And they haven't necessarily gotten the best performance yet, and they're still playing very well. They just took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, I believe. So overall, a very good division there in the NL West. So then you move on to the Central. You have the Cubs leading at 10-7. The Brewers are right there at 8-8, even though they had a disastrous first few games of the season. They've really picked it up and played well. You have Quintana, who pitched a really nice game there the other day. So the Brewers might still be a threat in that division. You have the Reds at 8-8. So that's going to be a pretty competitive division. I don't think the Cubs are going to run away with it like most people think, but I think the Cubs probably are the best in that division, and they're proving it so far this year. And then we have the NL East. You have the Mets coming in first place at 10-5 with a 1-game lead over the Phillies. That's going to be a battle all year. Nobody's running away with this division. The Phillies are good. The Mets are good. And honestly, the Braves are playing horribly right now. They're 4-11, but I'm not counting them out. I could see them having a Mets-type run, a Mets from last year type run. They're a very good team. They just haven't played well so far. I'm not counting them out. They're still going to be in the mix. The playoff mix at least. Maybe not division if they keep falling behind, but as of right now, I'm not ready to write them off yet. They're going to be just fine. So that's really the standings so far. In the AL, obviously you have the Angels, Tigers, Jays as the leaders, and in the NL you have the Padres, Cubs, and Mets. Right now, if the season ended today and the playoffs started, the Mets would be the 2 seed because they have the second best record in the National League for division leaders. And then your wild cards would be the Giants and the Dodgers. So it's not going to stay like this. This is very early. Just wanted to go through it. We're deep enough into the season now where we can start to look at how teams are faring so far. All right, now I'm going to get into the leaders of these teams, the offensive and pitching leaders of both the Mets and the Twins. First, we're going to do the Mets. If you're a fan and you watch every game, you already know Pete Alonso is basically leading in every major offensive category. He's tied with Nimmo with home runs with 4. But without Pete Alonso, the Mets would really struggle this season. They would not have a winning record without Pete Alonso. He has been most of their offense. And you could see that. He's batting .321. He's got 4 home runs, 18 RBIs already, a .431 on base, and over 1,000 slug. So while he did struggle in yesterday's game, he only got on base once, and it was by a walk. He took an 0 at the plate. But listen, the guy's been on fire to start the year. I have every confidence that he's going to have a bounce-back year, and so far he's proving that. And without him, we'd be cooked at this point. If you look on the pitching side, you have wins is McGill and Senga. They both have 2. The ERA, while McGill's is lower, Senga has the lowest of those qualified for leaderboards, and that's Senga at a 106. Clay Holmes leads in strikeouts with 20, and Senga leads in innings with 17, and Diaz has 3 saves, which is the team lead. Now, if you look around their pitching staff, they've all been very good. Maybe aside from a start here and a start there, or maybe a couple guys in the bullpen had a bad outing, like Diaz or Danny Young. But really, their pitching has been the strong point of this team. And Senga looks like he might be back. You look at Senga, what he did in the last game in Sacramento. He pitched really well. He looked like the 2023 Senga. He only threw 79 pitches in 7 innings. He wasn't a high strikeout guy. He only had 4 strikeouts, but he kept runners off base. He did his job, and he did it very well, and it's something we all needed to see. So I'm very happy with the way the pitching has shaken out so far. All right, now if you look at the Twins leaders so far, offensively, Ty France is leading in a lot of categories. He's leading in average at .298. On-base percentage, he's got a .355 and an OPS of .811. You also have former Met Harrison Bader having a great start to his year. He's already got 3 home runs. He's got 10 RBIs to start the season. He'd probably be our second best hitter at this point if he was still with the Mets. But overall, their offense hasn't really gotten going. Byron Buxton, he has 3 home runs. He's tied for the lead with home runs at 3, but he hasn't really gotten going yet. And they have good players. They just haven't really clicked yet on offense. So right now you're kind of getting them at a bad time. But Ty France and Byron Buxton, Harrison Bader have basically been their offense so far. If you look at the pitching side, you have 5 guys tied with 1 win. The ERA leader for the team is Pablo Lopez. He's been very good so far. Strikeouts, you have Simeon Woods Richardson. He has 16. Joe Ryan, who the Mets will face in this series, has 17 strikeouts, and they haven't recorded a save yet this year. And they do have one of the best closers in baseball, but they just have not been able to get into an opportunity where they were able to save a game. So overall, it's a struggling team. If you look at both offensively and pitching, they don't really match up well with the Mets, but that can change in an instant. We know that. It's baseball. It doesn't matter who the better team is, who's playing better. The better team can lose. It just happens. All right, now we'll get into some pitching matchups for this series. And in Game 1, we have Clay Holmes going up against Joe Ryan. Holmes this year has been a mixed bag. He's 1-1, 4.3 ERA. He's walked a lot of guys. He's given up some hits. He just hasn't looked great. He has not had good command. He has not been able to go deep into games. And it was a concern that a lot of people had coming into the season where maybe he's just not a starting pitcher. Now, I still believe in him as a starting pitcher. I saw in spring that he is able to dominate as a starter. And I don't think it's time to give up on that experiment just yet. And I really think we have to give him a little bit more of a leash. Now, if he continues to have these games where he's not able to have command and he's not able to throw all his pitches for strikes, then yeah, it's something you have to talk about later on, maybe moving him back to the bullpen. But right now, he has pitched well enough for me to say he needs more of a chance. You can see flashes. You can see where he can be that dominant guy. But I think maybe we just have to lower expectations at this point. I don't know that we see, a guy that maybe I predicted before the season started as a guy who was going to be their number one starter or their number two starter. I don't know that I see that right now. But listen, he's earned enough to keep warranting starts, and we just have to see some more command. We have to see some more control, and we have to see a little bit of that domination that we saw during spring, at least with a team that has really been struggling. And I think that's what he has to do. He has to come out against the Twins and beat up on a struggling offense. And hopefully he'll do that. And he's going up against Joe Ryan, who is 1-1 with a 2.65 ERA so far this season. He hasn't walked a batter, and he's only given up 12 hits in 17 innings. So he's had a really good start to his season. He struck out 15 in 17 innings. He's a good pitcher. I think he's probably the best pitcher that the Mets will face in this series, starter-wise. So the Mets need to get off to a good offensive start. And really that's where it all starts and ends, how well they can start hitting these starting pitchers. So that's the Game 1 matchup. And this is the matchup that I probably have the least confidence in the series. But you never know. The offense could be clicking after that last game in Sacramento, and maybe they get on a little run here. All right, now Game 2, we have Tylor Megill versus Bailey Ober. Tylor Megill has pitched very well this season, at least for most of his starts, right? So he'll go 4 innings, 4 2/3, 5 innings, and then he'll start to fall apart. And that's been the story of Tylor Megill's career. He's really a 5-inning pitcher, and that's what they've tried to get him away from, and they've tried to stretch him out and get him 3 times through the order, and it hasn't really worked out so far this year. Now, he is pitching to an ERA under 1. He has given up some runs, but they've been a lot of unearned runs because of errors and things like that. So I still have confidence in Megill. I think that really maybe he's turned the corner, but you have to realize if you're the Mets, if you're Carlos Mendoza or you're Jeremy Hefner, right now he's probably only a twice through the order pitcher, and that's fine. If you can get him through 5 innings, 5 1/3, 5 2/3, maybe stretch him through 6, facing the third time through the order, the first couple guys, sure, you can do that, and that's fine. Like, we don't need him to be our ace. You should get length out of Senga and Holmes and guys like that. You shouldn't be looking for length out of guys like Tylor Megill and Griffin Canning. Those are your back-end starters. Get through 5 with them only giving up 1 run or 2 runs. That's fine. That's all you need. The offense should be good enough to sustain that and to keep it going. Your bullpen has been great. Yes, they're a little stretched out, but Megill's been good for most of the season. He's had very good starts. So I think they just need to maybe plan better and understand that he's probably just a 5-inning pitcher, unless he's dominating. If he's going out there and dominating, then maybe you can throw him out there for a third time through the order, but I don't think it's necessary. Just get him his 5 innings, let him get out with confidence, having pitched well, and I think we're seeing the best we've seen of Tylor Megill so far this year. He's going up against Bailey Ober, who's 0-1 with an ERA over 7 in 12 2/3 innings pitched. He's given up 6 walks and 16 hits in just those 12 innings. He also has 12 strikeouts, so he's a guy you can hit. And the Mets need to hit him. I know he's not as bad as his stats say so far this year, but hit him while he's down. He's not pitching well, so you have to go out there and take advantage of that. You're not going to face, especially because the Twins do have a good bullpen, you have to hit these starters. And that's what they're going to have to do in this series. All right, now in Game 3, we have Griffin Canning against David Festa. Festa's only pitched in 1 game so far this year, 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. So, a first start of the year that most pitchers have gone through. They just not able to throw a ton of pitches, not able to get deep into games. And Griffin Canning is 1-1 with a 4.2 ERA. He struggled with the walks this year. He has 8 walks in 15 innings, as well as 15 hits and 13 strikeouts. So Griffin Canning has kind of been 1 good start, 1 bad start. He's kind of been what was advertised, right? It may be a little bit better than advertised, but he's not able to go deep into games. I think, in my opinion, it was a mistake for Mendoza to leave him in the 6th inning the other night in the first game against Sacramento. It was a mistake, and I try not to question Mendoza too much because he is a really good manager and generally he makes the right decisions. But in that one, you could see that Canning was done in the fifth. He barely got through the fifth. He was struggling. And then he comes out there for the sixth. I know he was only in the mid-70s in terms of pitches, but you could just tell he was done. And then as soon as he comes in, he gives up a double right away. He should have been yanked at that point. And the inning kind of spiraled, and it made the game a lot closer than it should have been. So Canning is another guy like McGill, who's twice through the order, should not be pitching 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. He's a 5 to 6 inning pitcher. That's all he is. And you hope that you can get that out of him because last time out was the first time I think he went into the sixth inning. So I don't have supreme confidence in Canning, but if they use him correctly, like McGill, especially because there's talk that they're adding a sixth man into the rotation in the next series against the Cardinals, you could work your bullpen a little more. I don't see him being a great pitcher, but as a back-end guy, he does fine. He gives you a few good innings. If he goes 5 innings and gives up 3 runs, I'm not going to complain about that because that's all you can really expect out of him. He's just a major league back-end pitcher. That's all he is, and that's all he's probably ever going to be. So at the end of the day, I don't have supreme confidence in him, but I know he can at least keep us in a game. All right, now I'm going to get into some basic notes around the two teams, what's going on with them. And obviously, Mets fans pretty much know what's going on with the Mets. But as you know, they took 2 out of 3 from the A's in the last series to go 10-5. It was a series win. It was something that they had to do. You had to take at least 2 out of 3 from an A's team that's just not very good defensively. Bullpen, they're just not a very good team. They're a scrappy team, but they're not very good. And you could see that in that series. They made a ton of errors and just bad judgments on balls. They just weren't very good. They're not a good team in terms of fundamentals and all that. They're just not very good. The offense, though, has looked very inconsistent. You have a game where they'll score 6 runs and look pretty good, and then the next day get shut out. And then come back the next day and get 8 runs. But so far, really the inconsistency has been because other than Pete Alonso and in some ways Brandon Nimmo, they haven't had a consistent hitter. I guess Torrens. If you look, Torrens has been very good every time he's started. He's getting a couple, at least one hit every game. He's been really good stepping in for Alvarez and being really the starting catcher for the first month of the season. And I have no complaints about Torrens. He's been very good. But you look at guys like Lindor, he's been very inconsistent. He's hitting the ball hard but without results. Vientos, Beatty, even Soto. Listen, we have to start criticizing Soto a little bit. He's getting on base, he's walking, his on-base percentage is good. But he's not making good hard contact. He's grounding everything out or hitting a weak fly ball, popping up. He's not hitting well. Now, I understand he's not really getting pitches to hit, and maybe that will come if Pete continues to stay as hot as he is. But right now, he just has not looked very good. To me, he looks like he's pressing. I've been saying it for a week now. He doesn't look right at the plate. I have no concerns going forward. I don't think he's going to forget how to play baseball and be an albatross for us. I don't agree with that take at all. But you could see he's not comfortable, and that's fine. He'll get out of it, but we need to start seeing some signs that he's getting out of it. The bullpen obviously continues to impress. Guys like Kranick and Garrett and Stanek. The only guy that I really there's a couple that I don't really love when they come into the game, and that's Danny Young. For obvious reasons, he just hasn't been very good. He hasn't been very sharp. He loses command. He's good against lefties, but not so much against righties. So you can't really trust him to give you any real solid innings. And then Buto, I know maybe his numbers aren't that bad, but I don't really love when he comes into the game. He just seems like he's one pitch away from really losing it. I don't love Buto. I never really loved Buto. I know he had a really good stretch last year where he was amazing, but I don't know. He's not. I have no confidence when he's in the game. And Diaz hasn't looked great. He struggled early in the season. He's had a couple games where he's looked really good and a couple games where he's looked really bad. So we'll have to see what happens with Diaz. I still think he's going to be fine this year. His velocity is maybe a tick down, but it's also early in the season. Once it gets warmer, once it gets hot, he generally picks it up. But overall, the bullpen's been very good. All right, now we'll get into some notes on the Twins. They come off a series where they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Detroit Tigers, who are leading their division. They're struggling to get offense. If you look around their lineup, Ty France is leading in a lot of categories. You have Harrison Bader up there as the leader in the categories. But you don't see guys like Carlos Correa. And Carlos Correa is a guy who makes a lot of money. He's one of their main guys. And I think he's hitting like 160 with no home runs and a couple RBI. Like, he just hasn't played well. He's always been a guy who's been hurt. That's the problem with the Twins. They have really good players who always seem to be hurt. This year, a lot of them aren't hurt, but they're just not performing well. So offensively, they have not really gotten it going. What the Twins do have is Harrison Bader, who's gotten off to a great start. The Mets let him go. He went to Minnesota, and he's playing very well. Happy for Harrison. I wasn't a huge fan of him with the Mets, but listen, he was on the 2024 team, so I'm always going to root for him and always going to hope that he does very well. And they also have an elite bullpen. They have not pitched extremely well this year, and they haven't gotten really any save opportunities, but they have one of the best closers in baseball, and they have a deep bullpen. They can shorten games with that bullpen. That's why it's imperative that the Mets get to the starters, because their bullpen is very good. So those are really what's going on with the Twins right now. Not much. They haven't been pitching all that well. They haven't been hitting all that well, which shows why they're 5-11. They haven't gotten it going. I think they started off the season like 0-5. So even being 5-11, hey, they're playing 500-ish ball since their bad start. So overall, not a great team. A team that the Mets should kind of feast on. All right, now I'm going to do the 3 biggest keys, I think, for the Mets in this series. The first one is one that I mentioned earlier. You have to get to the starters. The Mets have had a really hard time this year so far hitting starting pitching, even bad starting pitching. They make bad starting pitchers look really good, and then they rely on getting to the bullpen. It's something that they did last year, too. They struggled against... Last year, though, it was more struggling against good starters and then getting to the bullpen. This year, they're struggling against all the starters. So we need to see them come out and really start hitting early in the games and knocking the starting pitcher out early and maybe tiring that bullpen out. Because, as I've said, the Twins do have a very good bullpen. They can shorten the game. If their starter goes 6 innings, they are set up for the 7th, 8th, and 9th to shut you down. So really, you have to hit these starting pitchers. The game 1's going to be a little tough against Joe Ryan. He's a very good pitcher. But then in games 2 and 3, you have to get to those guys early. Even game 1, you have a good enough offense, and with Soto and Lindor and Alonso, and you should be able to hit anyone. It doesn't matter. So overall, that's really the biggest key, is getting the offense going early in the game and hitting starting pitchers and knocking them out. The second one is also around the offense. They need to be consistent. They're relying on big games and big series from 1 or 2 key guys. You've had Torrens, who's hitting well, Alonso, who's hitting well, Nimmo, he hasn't hit for average, but he's had some power and he's driven in some runs. But Lindor, he has 1 good game, 2 bad games. He has not been consistent. He really needs to start. Soto, yes, I'm not going to criticize him because he's still getting on base. He still has a high on base percentage, which is one of the draws for him, right? He's a high on base percentage guy. He's always going to be a high on base percentage guy, but he also has to be an impact bat. And so far, he really hasn't been. He hasn't. He's gotten on base and he's scored runs, but he has not impacted the game with his bat. We need to start seeing that. Maybe it comes with seeing more pitches. Maybe if Pete continues to be hot behind him, then he sees more pitches to hit. But right now, he's getting walked. He's kind of getting the Bonds treatment. But he's also not taking advantage when he does get a pitch to hit. He's grounding it out or popping it up, and we need to see a little bit better out of him. Obviously, Vientos, Beatty, they looked a little better in the last game, late in the game, in the 3rd game against the A's. They both had extra base hits in that 9th inning, but we haven't seen anything out of them. I'm not expecting them to be MVP candidates, but get some hits, get on base, hit a double. Maybe Vientos, hit a home run. That's kind of what you're here for. And I think it will happen. I don't know about Beatty. I think Vientos will come out of it. Beatty, I'm done with at this point. But they just need to start hitting as a team. And they did in the last game in Sacramento. So maybe that clicks something, sparks something, and gets them going a little bit. The third really big key is the Mets have to start punishing these bad teams. If the Mets want to consider themselves a top team, as we all do, right? They're one of the 5 best teams in baseball. You have to prove that against weaker opponents. They really didn't against the Marlins, maybe aside from a game or two. They were competitive with the Marlins. The A's, they lost a game, got shut out in a game. They won a close game, and then in one game they blew them out. But you have to dominate those teams. If you're playing bad teams, which the Mets have done earlier this season, they've played bad teams to start the year, and they have not been able to put them away. It's always a back and forth, or the other team's so scrappy, or whatever. I don't care how scrappy another team is. If you're the Mets and you have a $300 and whatever $million payroll, and you have this offense that's worth all this money, and you paid all this money for, it can't just be Pete Alonso doing it. They have to punish these teams. You have to go out and put up 10 runs. You have to win 10-2. It just has to happen. And we have to see that. If you can't dominate the Twins, and I'm not even saying the Twins, because the Twins aren't a bad team on paper. They just haven't played well. But if you can't dominate a team like the Marlins or the A's, then how are you going to be when you come up against the Phillies? That's what I worry about. I know you have to play who's in front of you. You have to play who's on your schedule. But right now, the way the Mets have played, I'm not that over the moon. I'm not that crazy about how they played so far. And the fact that they're 10-5 with how badly they've played a lot of the season, or hit, the pitching's been great, but the hitting has been kind of below par or over par, however you want to say it. It's amazing to me that they're 10-5 right now with how badly they played and how boring they've been to watch at times. They've just been really not fun to watch at times. So we need a big series. We need them to go out and show what they're capable offensively. And if they do that, then maybe I'll get excited for this year and get more amped up about our prospects going forward. But yeah, that's really the keys to the series for me. I don't really stress this series. I know sometimes when the Mets go to play these bad to below average teams on the road, they don't always play well, but I don't know. I feel like they're going to have a good series here. What I worry about is I think Carlos Correa is probably going to have a big series. He always hits well against the Mets after that whole thing with him a few years ago of signing with the Mets and then failing the physical and ended up going to Minnesota. He's always played well against the Mets, and I worry that it's going to be the Carlos Correa series. But you just have to keep their guys who are hitting down. You have to keep Buxton and Ty France and Harrison Bader from beating you. And then I think they'll have a successful series. I'm looking forward to this one. The Twins aren't a team that I see them play a lot. So, listen, it's going to be a good series. I think the Mets will be fine. They have, I think, the pitching matchups in their favor. And overall, they're just a better team. So they need to go out and take at least 2 out of 3. I'd love to see a sweep, but give me 2 out of 3. I'll be happy. Come back home, with a 12-6 record. You can't complain about that. And then they'll be playing the Cardinals, who are also a bad team. So it's all worked out for the Mets early in the season. They played bad teams, and they need to continue to take advantage of that. And that's really all I got. So if you're still here and you like this content, please subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just like liking it. Just subscribe and comment. What do you think is going to happen in the series? What do you think the keys are to the Mets winning? And yeah, until next time, let's go Mets.